Welcome to the Business Shop Podcast, where our guests speak on meeting the challenges of entrepreneurship, as well as offer tips and advice on business, marketing, technology, and more. Whether you are a newbie or a seasoned professional, this episode is for you. I am your host, Audrey Wiggins. Let's chop it up. Welcome again to another episode of the Business Chop. My guest today is Rob Broadhead. Now, Rob is a seasoned software developer, technology professional. His background includes over 30 years of design, development, and solution creation. It contains various enterprise systems on multiple system architectures and platforms to custom solutions for small businesses. His roles have included staff developer, director of development, architect, database administrator, among many others. He founded RB Consulting in 2001 as a software development and implementation company. However, after witnessing many poorly planned and designed projects, he altered the business focus. Thus, the primary focus is now helping customers create well-designed project plans and navigate the vast sea of technology. Now, this includes building teams or departments or turnkey solutions to address the needs of today and into the future. There is also a software development wing of the company and implementation consulting. Their goal is to help customers find the best solutions for their business their business problems and avoid cost overruns that seem to plague IT projects, as we can't afford to go over budgets these days. The goal was vital in writing the project planning ebook, and you can send them an email later after the broadcast for your free copy. Now, Rob has an MBA with a concentration in e-business at the University of Phoenix. He also holds a BS in computer science from Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology. He has written and published a semi-biographical book, ebooks, and a book on software development careers. Similarly, as a podcaster, and the podcast is the Building Better Developer / Developreneur, love it, podcast. He's a regular contributor to Developreneur and a blogger on the site. He contributes content regularly. You can see more about his podcast hosting and guesting here and do an internet search for Rob Broadhead. Likewise, you can send him any questions about your IT challenges for suggestions to help you over the hump. He even enjoys talking off topic and is always ready to get lost in a conversation about ice hockey. We want to hear more about that. Ballroom dancing, music, and his experiences raising strong-willed children. Now, Rob, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, awesome. So let's start, Rob, about the strong-willed children. I think maybe some people need some help with that and their technology.
They definitely need help with the strong-willed children. That's I was accused of that as a child, and as I grew up, I found that mine all took that on as well.
Okay,
so it keeps it interesting. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh my goodness! And what are their ages?
They range from the oldest is 27, the youngest is 16.
Okay. And are they involved in technology in any type of way, or have the computer science degrees?
They are all, you can call them geeks of some sort. I have the oldest two are off in the real world. One works for me, another works for another company as developers. The middle one is a little more mechanical on his side, but it's still technology with regards to airplanes and aeronautical engineering. Okay. Then I've got my one daughter is a artsy type, but she uses graphical design tools and does a lot of like CAD programs, drawing tablets and stuff like that. And then the youngest is he's a little bit more into video and audio production, but still very much on the technical. I have a whole technical support team in my kids. They help me out whenever my iPhone needs any kind of help.
Okay, I understand that because these things, there's a plethora of tools in here. I use it for a camera and, the email and all like the normal things that you do, but I'm sure they can tear this thing apart and give us some class of how to use this phone.
That's why we have them. We don't have the time to figure it all out. They'll do it for us and show us all the cool tricks.
Right. Exactly. Oh my goodness. So tell us more about RB Consulting and actually how you even got started into, what geeked you into technology.
I grew up it was really at the sort of beginning of the PC revolution. So I was in the first, I guess, generation of kids that had computers at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in Memphis. At the time, what was called Memphis State University actually had a thing where they would bring kids in, and basically middle schoolers. I think it even started as low as second or third grade. They'd bring them in on Saturdays and expose them to things that are outside of your normal, school kind of stuff. So one of the things that I got into, they had like an introduction to computers class that was, and that's probably 8 or 9 years old. And it was very rudimentary programming stuff. And I just automatically just like fell in love with it. I'm very math oriented and just in general.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a really logical fit. It was able to take that logic and turn it into something that was, I could see like things on a screen. I could make a computer do stuff.
Okay.
And then that just sort of grew. And so I was able to, as I moved forward through my high school career, was able to do a little bit of programming stuff. I did some stuff on the side to just teach myself how to do it. And then got into college. And actually it was sort of a random dartboard kind of approach, because I got in and didn't think I needed to declare. I wasn't sure really what I wanted to do, because I was like everybody else that's 18 years old. It's like, well, you have a world ahead of you. Right. And they say, okay, well, now choose your career. I'm like, I don't know. So I said, well, let's shoot for a major in computer science and math. And they said, okay. And the next thing I know, that was a path I was on. And luckily it was very fortunate, because that was, even in the first year, I found that was the kind of stuff I enjoyed doing. Some of the other things, the chemistry and physics and other things that were sort of on my radar, I said, I don't like those as much. I really like the programming side. And that just sort of took off from there. And so I got my degree and got into my career, and have never had a day that I have been unhappy since, as far as like, the work that I do.
Wow, that's awesome. I know I like to kid around and say I'm an entrepreneur, or would be preneur engineer, working the College of Engineering at Cleveland State University. So I always, find the students and professors fascinating, and I get to promote what they do is their marketing, their communications coordinator. So that's exciting. I did take one computer science class in college. And I took that in place of my math, and being in the atmosphere and around your like kind of, the engineers and things. It's about, I wish I would have, taken that path, taken that more serious. But I'm like I think you mentioned with your daughter, I was more on the creative side of stuff. So I like that part in the beginning when websites weren't as easy as they are today.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so let's get back to you about your company. So you started your company in 2001, and you talk about, changing focus. What's the story there?
Oh, I started out as first few jobs I had were with consulting companies, big at that time, it was the big six, and had seen consulting as a way that I wanted to proceed, because I wasn't going to be locked into a product and a technology. It was one of the things that very much had an appeal to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, all right, I've seen how it's done. Things worked out that I said, okay, I can go start my own company, or I'm going to go work for myself. I can go consult, and we'll see where that goes. And it didn't take very long getting into it and talking to, and a lot of it was really the pre-sales proposals portion of working as a consultant. It was amazing how many, and even to this day, it was amazing how many companies I would talk to that I was not the first person they had talked to. They had actually started a project, and usually it had just gone completely off the rails. And so they're in like a reset mode. They said, well, we did this is what we wanted to do. And now it got messed up, and we ended up, parting ways with the prior vendor. And it wasn't always the vendor's fault. It's not like everybody was, all the providers were bad. There was a lot of times it came down to just lack of communication, but also it was lack of understanding sometimes on both sides, what they were getting into.
Mm.
I like to relate it to building a house.
Okay.
If you don't know anything about a house and you say, I want a house, and then somebody goes build your house, you have no idea what they're going to come back with. And if you can get a little more detail, and you say, well, I want, a certain number of bedrooms and bathrooms and some things like that. But there's still dramatically large amounts of detail involved when you talk about like being able to, where can you place it on the land and what can you do with it, and wiring restrictions and plumbing restrictions, and getting the thing, hooked up to electricity and plumbing, and all of that stuff. That's why you have, people that build houses. They have done this enough time that they will talk to you about it. They'll say, okay, here's the questions we need you to answer. And they can usually, give you the ramifications about how what if you only have, not enough plugs, electrical outlets in a room, or, where are you going to have, people don't have phones anymore, but when they used to plug phones into a wall, it's like, where's that going to be? And things like where's a washer and dryer or a refrigerator? These are things that we just, and maybe, there's people in the audience who are like, oh, I know all about that. Well, I'm like a Joe Schmo in that I don't know enough of those details.
Right.
But I need to have somebody, if I'm going to have somebody build a house for me, I'm going to have them ask me the right questions, because I don't know what I don't know. Mm-hmm. And that was really what I found as I was getting into talking to a lot of my customers, is that they didn't really know two things. They didn't really know what they didn't know from the technology side, but a lot of times they struggled taking what they knew, especially entrepreneurs and small business leaders. There's stuff that's just ingrained in you because that's what you did, that it was your business. That's what you do every day. Mm-hmm. And it's not obvious that you need to really back up and explain that to somebody that's not in that business. It's every business, every line of business has its own language. And if you're talking to somebody that's outside of it, it can be a little bit foreign. I mean, I always use the medical, drama where everything, the doctors say stat. Like none of us are going to walk into Starbucks and say, "Hey, I need a coffee stat." Right. But it's that language. And lawyers are the same way. Is they'll talk about objections and rebuttals and things like that. That we that are not in that realm, it's not everyday language. And sometimes it's even language that has a different. It has very specific meaning. So like if you go into healthcare, there are things like whether you're a patient or a provider or a payer, and there's these things that they have a very specific meaning in that realm. Mm-hmm. And you may know it because you live in it, but if you don't, then you're sort of catching up. You're trying to understand it. And that happens no matter what your business is. So it's getting that communication, bridging that communication from you and your knowledge and getting that stuff out of your head in a way that somebody that's a technologist can help figure out how to solve that problem and how to do it in a way that actually solves your problem. And is not, a lot of times it's not what you're asking for, but it's what you intend in that ask.
Okay. So we need to be more clear, have more clarity on what we want or what we need. And then we give it to someone like you. And then you develop that out and say, okay, well, this is what you need to make that piece happening. So are you talking more about the architecture of their IT project, or, what is it, that they need to help fill in those gaps?
It actually impacts all of that. And that's where there's definitely, it's a two-way street. Okay. Is that there are, and particularly now as technology has become so pervasive, mm-hmm. and there's so many options out there, I think it's critical for a business, owner, whoever needs a problem solved, the business owner, manager, whatever they happen to be, mm-hmm. to understand what it is that they're trying to solve, is to know their process and what are the details of that to a level that they can actually answer those questions, which usually they can. But then on the other side of that is the provider, the technologist, needs to ask the right questions, okay. and provide the feedback to say, I'm asking you this question, and here's some things that are options that you have. Because a lot of times business owners don't realize, they just know, I've got a problem, I see a solution, this is the way I need to go. But it's because they don't understand, because that's not their realm. They don't know that there are other possibilities, mm-hmm. for solving that problem. And the technologists need to be able to provide that so that they're properly informed, so they can make the right decisions. It does come down to whoever the customer is, the payer, the person that writes the check, mm-hmm. needs to be able to, they need to say, here's what my problem is, and they need to have that solved. And they want it solved in the best way. But then the technologist needs to say, the path that you think you need to go down, you don't actually have to go there.
Okay.
It would be like, it's like if you're going from point A to point B, you may think I have to go through this portion of town that's got construction going on and I always get stuck in traffic. But, there's maybe somebody else that could say, you know what, you don't have to actually go that way. You can take this other path. You can go off the side road. And now you don't have to go through all of those headaches. You don't have to deal with that at all. And there may even be parts of your requests that are like, well, I need to be able to have like a coffee maker in my car because I sit in traffic that long, or something like that. And now suddenly that becomes a non-issue because you're not going to be sitting in your car that long. Mm-hmm. And so it really comes down to, it's communication, and it's having that conversation so both sides can understand the details enough about the problem that the right decisions can be made. They can be done in an informed way. And then that translates to the technology side. They have to make sure that they keep that. It's often referred to as the why. Why do you need this problem solved? Why are we doing this? Okay. The technology side needs to keep that in focus so they are actually doing what the customer needs as opposed to just building a cool solution.
Okay. So can you give us a problem, an example problem that you've solved and, how that worked out? So what what an individual business, might need, say a small or medium-sized business, whether they're doing manufacturing or everything is more of an office or service type business, where they still need IT solutions, and, what type of solutions would those be? And, just so we can put a little more color onto that. Meat on it.
Yeah, I think an area that I see a lot in businesses is the let's refer to as like the back office, and this is small, medium, even large. Okay. So it's things like depending on what your business is, but it's things like maybe your warehouse, it's your fulfillment, it's your payroll, it may be some HR stuff. It's all of the things that any business has to some extent. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's now granted, you may not have, if you sell services versus products, there's some of those things that are going to vary from business to business. But there are tools out there that you can sign up or you can buy it and you can be off and running almost immediately. And they are general purpose things. So it'd be like a lot of people probably would recognize, like I'd say like a QuickBooks or something like that for accounting. Well, you have those kinds of solutions for almost anything that you need in your business. You can find solutions that are individual for your accounting, for your HR, for all of your other pieces, but then you can also find single solutions that have all of those combined. And you'll hear stuff like Salesforce. People will think about that, and sometimes they'll say that's way beyond me. I'm not that big. It's too expensive. Mm-hmm. But a lot of those tools now have entryways into utilizing that enterprise class solution, and it doesn't cost you an enterprise class budget. Okay. And it allows you to sort of like, in a sense, dip your toe in. So come in, take the pieces that you need, mm-hmm. and then use those. And then as your company grows and you need bigger things, then you can more easily progress to those longer things. So a lot of times it is a conversation where it's, what do you need now? With the customer, I'll talk to them, what do you need now? What is the problem you need solved? But let's talk about, where is the business going to grow? Where do you see yourself a year from now or 5 years from now? Because you may be in a very different situation if your growth plans are, sometimes if they're even half what you're hoping they're going to be, you're still going to be in a very different situation. So you want to make sure that that conversation includes, let's look at what you've got. Let's look at what needs to be solved. Let's make sure we solve the problem for today, but we also do it looking forward to tomorrow. And I guess to give like a brief example. Yes. I mean, a recent customer I've got they came in and they're really focused on time entry, payroll, invoicing, and getting the employees to enter their time. Okay. And they know, so the system they had is broken. They have a lot of issues with it. It's got bugs and it causes them pain point. It's a major pain point. They also know that down the road, they want to go to an ERP system, that they're going to pull all this stuff in. They want it all in one system. They want to take what is a very really manual process that they do right now, and they're growing the business. They want to grow it to the point where it's now something they can hire other people in. It's more automated. And in the conversation, the initial conversation was we need to rebuild our current solution, just rewrite it from scratch. We're so frustrated. Let's do that. Mm-hmm. And in the conversations, we talked about, well, what is your time frame to get to this ERP? That's going to provide some of the things that you already have.
Let me stop you real quick, Rob. So what's an ERP?
Mm-hmm. Oh, enterprise resource planning. So this is okay. This is I'm sorry, I should see that's what language. That's right. An ERP is it to. I'm summarizing it at a very high level, but it's really it is an all-encompassing piece solution for your business. So if your business has products, let's say, it will help you with your warehousing, with your shipping, with your invoicing, with your a lot of times with order intakes, and so it is a complete system. And that's what these guys are moving towards. Is they want to take all of their stuff, put it in a system so it's easy to use, and it's built by people that's their job, is to build that sort of system.
Okay.
And so the original request of I want to rewrite this whole thing that we use today and rewrite that from scratch and get it to work right and learn the lessons we need to learn from our prior version. In the conversations, I said, well, wait a minute, how far out is this new thing that you're going to buy that will solve those problems? And then how painful is what you're going through? Well, what they're going through is very painful. They said, we need at least a stopgap solution. But now just talking through that changes them from having to build this whole thing and then essentially do it again when they go to this other software. So now we talked about, all right, what do you need today? What can you use that we can allow you to essentially, in a way, limp along?
Okay.
Then also position you so that when we go to that, when you buy that full system, that we can actually move you to that in an easier way. And not only moving your data, but also find a way to, we'll say, insulate your employees so that, which is what we're going to end up doing, is they will enter their timesheets and we'll have a back-end system that does some stuff that moves the data around. And eventually when they go to this ERP system, it'll just push data to the ERP, but the employees will not see a difference. Which we all know, especially if you're doing something that's very repetitive, like entering a time card, sheet and selecting the clients and what project you're working on. That's the kind of stuff you don't want to spend a lot of time on it. You want to be able to just get in, enter a couple of things, put your numbers in and off and running. And that's what we're going to focus on, is streamline that for the employees and then have the data go push off so that the administrative side can be taken care of, manually initially, but then when they get that full system, we'll just transition it over to them.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, because you do need to have, you're talking about an infrastructure of a business, and that's important because we need to be concentrating our time on producing or getting more clients, not how the operations behind the scenes are going to be working out. So that's important to have organizations like yours to come in and fix that up. So how soon? I mean, some business, we start off as solopreneurs. Do you work with those types of clients, so we can, I know we talked about in your bio what we're doing today and into the future. So do people call you in at the beginning like that, or maybe they're 1 or 2 years or 2 to 3 years in and, and now seeing that, okay, down in 5 years, I'm going to need to have a system in place if I'm going to really be able to sustain and maintain this business and grow it?
I actually come in at any level. So I've talked to, and it does depend a little bit on what the business is.
Okay.
So there's a lot of solopreneurs that I've talked to them from the scratch, from right out of the gate, because they know they need a web presence or a web solution or a mobile product. If they've got some sort of a digital product or a service that they know they need that web presence, that they need to maybe take online orders, things like that, they'll bring me in. Usually just, and it starts as a conversation. They say, hey, I need an order entry application built.
Okay.
And that's where the conversation begins. Like, well, what do you really, how is this going to look? What do you need today? What does your product catalog look like today? What are you planning on? And then that can be, a longer relationship with them, because it may be I come in and build something, and then a year later we talk about whatever the next phase is going to be, or enhancing that. But then there's also companies that usually it's where they get to it's in a business sense, it's sort of like the idea that you grow and then you plateau and then you're going to grow again. It's sort of, business, it's not, I don't know, it's not really cyclical or seasonal as much as it feels like we grow to a certain point. And think about solopreneurs. You build up your customers, you get busy, and you get to a point where you say, hey, I've got too much work. I need to bring other people in. But along with that, I also then, when I bring other people in, I can also reach out to more customers. I can provide more services. So you sort of like, you get comfortable, and then you realize, all right, now I'm ready to go through another growth period. And then that happens quite a bit. Sometimes it's from a solopreneur to an actual business, and a small business to a mid-size to a larger business. And at those points are usually where I'm going to be engaged, because it's them saying, all right, I'm sort of at a point where I want to review where I'm at and figure out and plan what are my next steps. And that's a lot of the times where I can come in, because they realize that we don't have technology, or our technology is not going to scale with us, or things along those lines, where it says like, we've limped along with this and it was okay, but now when it grows, it will not translate. It's something that we can't take that on. If you think of it in the most simple sense, if your order system takes, if it takes you, a long period of time per order to get it taken in and fulfill it, then it may be okay if you've only got a couple of customers, because they're still going to be served in a reasonable amount of time. But if you 10 times that customers, then suddenly you've got to figure out a way, you've got to have a better solution. So if it takes you like let's say they have an Etsy site, you're just a solopreneur and you do nice little cool widgets and you sell those, then it takes you, an hour per widget to get it done and to send it out and do all the packaging. If you've got 5 or 10 customers maybe a day, then that keeps you busy, and you can send that out to them and they get it the next day, things like that. If you suddenly go to 50 customers a day, you don't have enough, suddenly you don't have enough hours in the week effectively. Well, I guess you can give up sleep to service those customers, but it just, it quickly becomes a problem. So it's those kinds of things. It's companies and owners and managers realize that, we need to embrace technology. We have technology, and now we need to find a way to use that better. And if it's not that, it's me a lot of times coming in and explaining to them that here's where you're at, and here's where technology can be leveraged to make your company run, better, faster, cheaper, those things that we need to do to eventually succeed and outpace the competition.
Okay. So we really need to be paying attention to what's happening in our business, and don't wait too late before we reach out to, to somebody like you, your R&B consulting.
Yeah, I think of it's sort of like finances. Is every year you sort of look at stuff, whether you like it or not, you're going to look at stuff because you do taxes. And so you're going to go through that. And a lot of times, like that's when you'll see like, hey, why aren't we spending money on this? Or we need to do something here because that will affect our taxes the next year around. Yeah. I think IT has gotten to a point with a lot of companies. It's the same way. You need to do sort of I don't know if assessment's probably a strong word, but at least sort of like a review, probably at least annually, to just say, hey, where am I at? Where are we doing? Where are we spending money? What are we expecting out of this? And can we do it better? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So this has been a great conversation. So also, I know you talked about, we have the opportunity to talk with you with a 30-minute free consultation, so we can even see where where we are, and what we need, where we need to start, and you have your ebook as well. So tell us more about that, how we can get in touch with you, and so you can start helping us to grow our business, using technology. Yeah, the site is RB, the letter R, the letter B, and then a hyphen, and then SNS as in SamNancySam.com. Okay. And we've got right there on the homepage, you can go click, there's a nice little box that says click here for a free consultation. And really that was something that I wish more businesses had taken advantage of. And that's why we made this front and center, because even just if you're at a point where you're thinking about, what am I going to do? I've got a project or I've got a growth plan, and I know there's technology, but if I'm not a technologist, then I need to find somebody that can sort of help me with that. And that's where usually in that session, it really is, it's a lot to help you, a little bit to help you know what you don't know, is to say, here's, okay, if this is the direction you want to go, here's some of the questions you need to ask, which goes back to my earlier example of building a house. It would be somebody to say, all right, if you're going to do this, you need to make sure that you talk to them about your needs for, how many people are going to be there and things like that. And the business is the same thing. It's like, it goes down the path of, what do you want to do? Okay, if you want to do those, here's some options, and here's the kinds of questions you should expect from your vendors. And if you don't, you need to make sure that you're answering that for them anyways. And if they really don't, then maybe you should go on to a different vendor. And here's a lot of times it's like, this is the ballpark of what you should expect, because a lot of business owners will come to me and say, this is what I want to do, but I don't know how long what is a reasonable cost in time and money, and what is my involvement going to be? Mm-hmm. And that's where I can sort of help set their expectations a little bit better, okay, and guide them a little bit, so that they give them a couple of tools so that they can move forward.
Awesome. Well, Rob, I really appreciate your time and expertise, for real, as a technologist on our show today. So folks, remember, and we'll have this in the show notes as well, to check out Rob and his company, RB Consulting, at rb-sns.com, and you'll be able to go there. You can send an email, get the ebook, and as well as take advantage of that consultation, because like you said, we don't know what we don't know. We know what we want, or sometimes we think we know what we want, but we have that initial conversation with folks like you to help us, get clarity in deciding and actually understanding what we really need. So if with that, if you have any last advice, and don't forget, folks, also too, I want to make sure people plug into your podcast, Develpreneur, as well. All right, Rob, you have the last word.
Oh, well, I would love for everybody to just take this to heart a little bit and realize that you're not expected to know everything about technology, but you do have to know it a little bit. And something like this, people like us are out here that we want to help. We want to make sure that you're successful and help you be successful and get to the solution that you need, not just a solution that you think you might need, but actually help inform you enough to get you to that perfect solution.
Awesome. Thank you. Rob, that's our time today. I really appreciate you again and your expertise, and I look forward to the next time we have our conversation and plugging also into your podcast. I'll definitely be watching. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate being here. I had a great time.
Thank you for listening to The Business Shop. We hope that you were able to glean valuable information from our guest, and that you will download and share this podcast. Your rating and review is much appreciated. To go deeper with our guests, please visit their website and social channels. To learn more about us, please visit businessshop.info or altogether.biz, where we will help you expand your brand.